trust is the most important part of what I call high ticket sales. Then trust is the number one factor. And if you don't have the trust, you don't have the client. All of us have one bottleneck. We don't have two. We just have one bottleneck. And if you ignore the one bottleneck, you will not grow. With every client I work with, the first place we start is what are you offering and who are you offering it to? That's the number one thing I look at. What are you offering? Who are you offering it to? That's it.
On episode 327 of the podcast, we talk about the 5 bottlenecks that are holding you back in your business. We also talk about the key things to do before you focus on lead generation, and then the single factor keeping a client from hiring you. All this and more on today's episode. What's up, friend? I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show that I made for corporate and commercial filmmakers that are wanting to focus on the business of production. You're probably amazing at filming, editing, planning, all of the things that the clients love to see. But when it comes to the experience and building something that's sustainable, working for clients that you love, making the kind of money that you want, you might not have it all figured out. And this is the place where we kind of talk about those things. And if you're new here, I have a gift for you. This is my 6-figure filmmaker workshop. It's a free workshop where I go over the things that I've learned over the last 18 years that have helped us build a 7-figure business. It's allowed me to hire employees, filmmakers, project managers, and just the things that I've done, the efficiencies that I've found, and the ways that I've been able to charge a lot of money for the videos that we do and have confidence, all while also like being creative and caring about people and how they feel in all of those things. So check out this workshop. It is accessible if you go to studiosherpas.com/workshop. Totally for you, my gift for you, and would love for you to just go through that and do some learnings on some of the things that have worked well for me over these lots of years of running my own production business. This is an awesome episode with my friend Brian. I was on his show a long time ago and finally got him on the show, and we could have talked for a lot longer than we did, but there's a lot of gold nuggets in this episode. So make sure that you stick around to the very end because it's all the goodness. Let's get into today's episode. What's up, friends? Welcome to another episode of the show. Today, I have with me Brian Hood, who is the host of the 6-Figure Creative Podcast. He is a serial entrepreneur. He also has ADHD. He's got a music production background. I've been on his amazing show, and I realized just recently we were emailing back and forth. And I was like, oh my goodness, I haven't had you on my show yet. What is going on? Brian, welcome to the show.
Dude, I'm glad to be here, man. I was like trying to pull my spreadsheet up really quick. I was like, I'd have to know what number it was that you were on the show. But you know what? We can talk about that later if people want to go. Actually, you know what? Why would anyone on this show want to go back to listen to the one show that they already know the entire story of? Like, they know your story, so don't go listen to that episode. That's the one you don't need to hear. But yeah, thanks for having me, man. It was awesome having you on the show. I can't wait to chat about what we're going to talk about today. And yeah, this is the first time I've been on someone else's podcast in way too long, honestly.
I just find that so hard to believe. I'm so grateful to Graham Cochran, who introduced us back in the day. Had a blast on your show. I can't believe we did talk forever. You're like, oh yeah, I usually try to keep these within whatever time frame, and we surpassed that by like 2 or 3 times. So we had a good time. And again, like I'm just like, how did this not happen? Anyway, we're here. We're living our best lives. Share just a little bit about your background in music, and then transition into the space of online. You've got podcasts. You've done multiple. Well, I guess you've had one show, but kind of a couple of different niches there. Kind of share your journey with us.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this short, just to give people enough context to know where I'm coming from, but without boring people with a bunch of details that you don't need to know. So here's a very quick summary. I skipped college, toured the world, 44 states, 8 countries, in a Christian metalcore band straight out of high school. I wouldn't recommend it, but we did it. We got signed. We got to play in some other countries. It was a lot of fun. And then I developed kind of an understanding of how to run a business. I was the person that booked tours. I was our manager. I was our tour manager. It was a lot of work. And that was like my very first 6-figure income stream, but it was split between 5 people. We had a ton of expenses. My take home pay was probably like 20 grand a year. And then at the end of 2008, I left that band. and started my home studio in my parents' basement, where I ran that for the first year. And then from there, I just kind of hit the ground running and started getting clients, started making more money, had my first 6-figure year in 2014 in the recording studio space, or really the home studio space, and moved my studio up to Nashville, where I'm at still today. And since then, I've launched, I don't know, 7 or 8 other 6-figure income streams. Is what that's where I say I'm a serial entrepreneur. I spot opportunities, and it's everything from like real estate to courses and coaching, kind of like you've gotten into, to freelancing, to software. I have 2 software companies. So like I do a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to now bring that back, hone in my ADHD, and focus on just like 1 or 2 good things. One of those things being the 6-figure creative podcast. And the other thing is just another main project that I'm putting all my focus in at this point.
That's incredible. Well done. That was like really good. Just
Yes.
Dialed in.
Yeah.
Focused. So
because we've all we've all heard the like, well, I went to college for 4 years and got my bachelor's,
right.
and I'm just like, because as a co-host or as a podcast host, I also know that like I have to like sometimes tell my guests, tell me less information, please, and just get to the stuff that actually matters. So like I'm trying to be a good guest here as well, but hopefully listeners can appreciate the fact that I didn't go on for 30 minutes about my life story.
Yeah, I think I did that on your show. Anyway,
no, you didn't.
So, out of all of the work that you get to do, what would you say is what brings you the most joy, the most fulfillment?
So that's changed over the years, and I want to like preface what I'm about to say with the fact that I am not here to sell anything to anyone, but my business coaching, which is the second thing that I kind of alluded to, is my main big focus right now, has been really, really awesome to experience because just to kind of back up, freelancing, awesome thing to do, really fun, very much a passion project. However, the transformation that I was doing in people's lives was very minimal. I was producing metal bands. And while that's fun, and it was part of like the background that I was a part of, it's like heavy metal bands, deathcore, metalcore, that whole world. And I did it for a long time. I was never really like transforming a life or doing anything that was like super life-changing. It was like smelly band comes to studio. Smelly band records music. Smelly band releases music. Smelly band tours the world. And they eventually maybe come back to me again. That was kind of the cycle of like clients there. And I'm being a little cynical here. Like it wasn't really that bad. I did really enjoy it, but it wasn't like transforming lives. Doing business coaching for creative freelancers like I've been doing is so much more fulfilling to me because the impact that you have is things like somebody who came in, who has 3 kids, who's trying to get their finances together and is losing $3,000 a month, going into deeper and deeper debt every single month. I'm speaking of a very specific client that I'm thinking of right now. I'm not going to name names because I haven't gone through their case study or gotten permission to share this stuff yet. And you can say I'm lying if you want. That's fine. And had a new child on the way, making $17,000 a year in podcast editing. And then the year following that, 2022, cracking the 6-figure mark. Like that's the sort of stuff where it's like I've helped change someone's life for the better for the rest of their life because now they have a business that is like sustaining themselves. So again, I didn't come here to even talk about that, but you asked about it, so I'm going to tell you.
I love it, dude. That's so good. Is there like a common thread in the people that you are coaching where it's just like, man, if people could just like figure this part out, it would make all of the other parts so much easier to overcome and achieve?
Absolutely. Like, oh my gosh. Okay. So the coaching program I have, again, I'm telling you this just to give you context about the answer I'm about to give. The coaching program I have is for building what I call your client acquisition machine. It's about bringing in a steady stream of clients. While that sounds like a very helpful thing to have, that's almost always never the problem that people really have when they come to me. So when I actually start working with people, the single biggest problem that people have almost always is something to do with pricing and packaging. And if not that, it's almost always all of these things, but it's pricing, packaging, and then the actual offer itself. Is it something that people actually want? And if they get both of these things wrong, it doesn't matter how many clients you have, you're going to have a business that's going to run itself into the ground. So number one is like getting pricing right. And usually if you can't up your prices, it's because your offer is bad. And so those two things together are like two of the most important things in my eyes. That is like, if you get those two things right, everything else gets so much easier.
Yes. That's good. I thought you were going to give us more, but that's.
I mean, really, I can give you more, man. I just like, I don't know. It's like we talked about kind of an episode we're going, but this is going away from that. I'm like, I don't want to get this off track, but I also can talk about whatever you want, man.
What about like, I know for me, like one of the biggest things has been mindset. And
yeah,
but not like for me, especially early on, believing that people would pay me, so like, sure, I've got the offer because everybody's calling me. But man, I'm getting annoyed that I booked this thing 6 months ago and now we're finally getting around to doing it. And I'm frustrated that the client is only paying me this much money. I feel like, they should be paying me this much more because I've upgraded my gear and I know so much more now and everything's better. So, but getting that confidence or kind of getting that place where I feel like I can charge that much, or me having eyes on my competition who is like, much better than me and charges twice as much as I do. So then me just immediately thinking, well, I can't charge as much as them because their stuff is so much better than mine. So, but maybe I can come kind of close, but definitely I would never dare to charge more than them, even though they're probably going through this same mind-bending activity, looking at somebody else and saying, they're stuck at a price point where they should be charging more. So can you speak into any of that at all? That any of that?
Yeah, whatever you're going to sell me, whatever you're about to sell me, Ryan, I'm going to buy it because it's like one of those, like, you hit the nail on the head. It's like, if you can talk about someone's problems better than they can articulate themselves, they will buy from you. So you nailed that. Yeah. Okay. So there used to be something I talk about. So just to kind of give a little backstory, I had the original podcast I launched was called the 6-Figure Home Studio Podcast. And I only talked
if you try to sell us on your coaching again, like, just
I swear to God, I'm not. I'm just telling you, that was my background, was the home recording studio world. And then we rebranded to the 6-Figure Creative. Back in those days, I had something that I created called the Home Studio Hierarchy of Needs. And it was actually a similar thing. Have you ever heard of Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, where it's like, we have these certain needs that need to be met before we can focus on the next rung on the ladder. We have to have safety before we can start worrying about love and belonging. Like, we have to make sure we have a place to sleep and food to eat, and we're not going to die tonight before we can ever start worrying about, like, who am I going to marry? What is my life going to be like? Like self-actualization. Like, again, go look up Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs if you don't know what this is. I created something called the Home Studio Hierarchy of Needs. And on the very bottom of that pyramid, the foundational thing that had to be taken care of before you could worry about any other thing was mindset. So you've brought that back to my memory because I completely forgot that I even created that years and years and years ago. And honestly, I tend to I start seeing these common problems and forget sometimes that the root issue is lack of self-confidence, lack of belief in yourself, lack of self-worth. You don't feel like you are worth what you are charging. And I mean, we can talk about that all day. I don't know if I have a simple, easy solution like it is with pricing. But we can try to dissect this if you want, man, because this is not the direction I was expecting to go, but I'm happy to go there.
No, I assume that in those conversations, that's definitely part of where people are struggling to feel like they've earned the right. I think, the right offer, like, that's huge, in figuring out how to price it and making sure that it's, something that people want and need. Totally important. And like I was saying, like, for me, I figured out, like, oh, this is the offer. This is an okay price. It's probably more than what most people are charging around here. But if I want to kind of like live this lifestyle and have some more freedoms in my life, I got to charge more money because this isn't, like, it's not that sustainable.
Can I comment on something with that though? Like, I think a lot of people's issues around this subject comes back to offering like copycat services.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'll try to explain this. So like copycat services is like you have the skill you've honed and developed. And for your audience, it's videography or video editing or video creation. As the Grow Your Video podcast, you have video editing skills or video skills that you have honed over the years. And so you start thinking, oh, I love to do this thing. And you start looking at the other people in your area and thinking, this is what they're doing to monetize these skills. So I will also offer these exact same services. This is what they're charging for these services. So I'll offer the exact same price, maybe a little lower to undercut them. So I can offer the same thing for a lower price. And then you start doing this thing, and that's where the self-doubt creeps in, because you start seeing that there's a lot of other people offering the same exact thing. And they're way better at it than you because they've been doing it for another decade on top of what you've been doing it. Mm-hmm. And so now you are doubting yourself. So when you give out that next quote, you don't feel confident in the price you gave out because, person X, Y, or Z down the street can do it twice as well. They have more expensive gear. They've been doing it longer. They have a better portfolio, or maybe even, hell, if it could be the same portfolio, if they just have been doing it longer. So you don't feel validated the fact that you can charge more or ever up your rates. The way to get around that is getting out of what I call like the button seat kind of work, where you're just a butt in a seat. It doesn't really matter what butt is in that seat. It could be the person down the road. It could be you. To the client, it doesn't really make a difference. Instead, focus on what is the outcome that they want. And I know with you, Ryan, you work with a lot of like corporate clients who have actual budgets, which is wonderful. But you align your offer, the service you do, very much to the outcome that they want. And you're not just offering videography services. You're not just making videos for them. You are doing it with the end in mind of what does the client want? For your kind of clients, they want to make more money. So what can I do that's different from everyone else to help my client make more money? And the better you are at answering that question, the more you can charge, because now you have something called value-based pricing. You're no longer charging what Sally or John down the street charges, because you're no longer offering the same button seat thing that they did before. This kind of brings back to something that a lot of other industries, video is not quite there yet, of worrying about AI coming in and just wrecking your industry. I personally think AI is a wonderful addition to the freelance community as a whole, for the most part, with a few small differences. But AI, if it affects any freelancers, it's because they're offering butt in seat jobs. And I've seen this in the audio space where certain services are kind of going the wayside because AI can do it just as well as a human, but for much cheaper. But it's those full transformational services where you are helping your client to the outcome that they want, not just some service. You're not just selling widgets and services, you're selling outcomes to them. Those are the things that will be around for a long time, long after AI's out. And that's a weird side tangent because AI's on the top of my mind right now because I just did a whole episode on it on the podcast. But it goes back to just when you are comparing yourself apples to someone else, that's where the imposter system kicks in. And when you can no longer compare apples to apples, now it's apples to oranges. Now you're not saying his apple is shinier than mine. You're saying he's got apples, I've got oranges. Two different things. I can charge more.
Dude, that's so good. Man, I just, when I was on your show, we talked about the workshop that we offer to our clients. And, just in the past couple of months, the acceleration of ChatGPT and AI and all of this stuff has everybody like, oh my gosh. And I'm seeing more like softwares are coming out. Like I just read something the other day, like AI cameras that are going to be able to follow you around and shoot smooth and, just all this stuff. I'm like, this is crazy. Like there's a part of what we do that clients aren't going to need us for. But right now, like on Friday, I did a workshop with a client and, I sat with them for 2.5 hours and we talked through the guts, the soul of who they are as a brand. And we kind of, just went back and forth and we created an opportunity for them to talk to each other and to say like, what do we really think? Or what do we really want? Like when we have this video, how are we going to use it? There's just a part of that where people are going to trust working with experts and they're going to want to link arms and kind of walk toward this goal. So for us, that's definitely one of our differentiators. Other people can offer the same exact workshop, but my experience, my own brand, we're bringing that flavor into the conversation. And so that's the part that's always going to be unique here. And for somebody else, I sell the video blueprint method to other filmmakers. Say like, hey, use this workshop, do this workshop. Let this be your differentiator instead of like, oh, we shoot with a red camera or we shoot with this camera. We have really good tripods that are really stable. It's like, it's the whole button seat mentality. That's all the same. We all use basically the same stuff that basically, if you kind of know what you're doing, it's all going to look roughly the same. So what is different? Why would somebody pay you more? And if you've got that button seat mentality, you've already lost the race because you're like, well, there's no reason for them to pay me more. They could hire any of us because we all do the same thing until you start doing something that isn't the same, right? Then that's where the value comes in and says like, okay, now we've got two different companies that offer workshops and that guide us in this process. Is there something else, something other than a workshop? Is there another thing that is your own flavor that isn't just we approach every edit the same, we use the same gear, same software, all of those things. Really smart to be thinking bigger picture. How can we create a value-based conversation? Because that's when people will start to say like, oh, I'll pay 2 times more for that video. I'll pay 5 times more for that video because we feel like we're getting something much more than just a video. We're working with an expert, a consultant, somebody that's coming alongside us to guide us on this journey.
Can I give an example actually that kind of tie this into the video world? Because there's somebody that comes to mind when I think through this. Besides you, Ryan. Now, obviously, you're the prime example of this, and I love your workshop method that you do.
Thanks.
I was like blown away on the podcast, which was episode 206 on our show. I found the episode. Yeah, episode 206 where you came on and talked about that. But anyways, so like. Let's just look like for video for like local commercials or doing like local type of promotion videos for local businesses. What would a videographer charge for that? Just like for a generic button seat kind of like commercial or video that they're just going to use online.
$500, $1,000 maybe.
That's so cheap. Okay, $500, $1,000, great. So that's where you're doing like a button seat job. You're like, oh, this local salon wants a video promoting their salon. Great. I will make this video and I will give it to them. And I will charge $1,000, and then I will go to the next client and do the next button seat job, and I'll keep doing that, and I'll wonder why I can't raise my rates. Meanwhile, you have the Harmon brothers. How much do the Harmon brothers charge for the same exact thing? They charge $500,000 or more for a 2 to 3 minute video. That's it. And why, Ryan? And I'll let you answer this because I don't even have to answer this. Why, Ryan, can the Harmon brothers charge $500,000 or more for one single video?
Well, I mean, they've got. They're not just showing up with a camera and okay, tell me what should we shoot here? Like, okay, get this thing. Yeah. All right. We'll cut that up. We can make that 2 minutes. That's not a problem.
Yeah. So they have a whole process, and I've heard people explain through this process of what they do. It's actually like hundreds of thousands of dollars plus a percentage of ad spend is what the Harmon brothers charge for their videos. It's because those videos will make these companies many, many, many multiples of that because they're funny, viral videos. And they've done, for those who don't know, they did like the poopery videos, I believe. They did the squatty potty commercials. They're just really, really funny, viral videos. And when they tend to do a video, it's like anything they touch turns to gold. So they have tied the outcome they provide, the video, with the outcome the client wants, which is more money. And the closer you are to that outcome, especially in the corporate world, the more you can charge. And that's the difference between making a $500 local commercial video and a $500,000 thing that will be spent millions of dollars in ad spend behind it. Now, obviously, the clientele is different as well, but I can promise you that they didn't start out at that price point. The Harmon brothers just finally figured out, I don't know their background. I mean, who knows how their path is, but for anyone trying to replicate something similar, you start small, you get success stories, you get case studies, and you start leveling up your client base until you get to that level where you can charge $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 for a similar project. But they also have a crazy process where they have writers they work with and they go on retreats and they come back with scripts and they have people compete over what script they're going to use. And it's a whole crazy kind of process if you want to look into it. But that's apples to oranges. There is no real competitors for them. It's either you take it or you don't.
Yeah, and that's why it's so tough. It's tough when you start out because exactly what you said. Like you look at who's the competition, what are they doing, what level work. Okay, I can do similar. I can do the same. I'm not going to charge as much because they've been doing it a little bit longer than I have. So let me just get some more experience under my belt, and then eventually I'll charge more. And by the time I'm charging more, they're probably charging more too. So it's just kind of this like race-ish toward the bottom-ish, and it just doesn't work. When you get in that space though, the referrals that you get are going to want the same thing for the same price, right? Because those people are talking. So then you had to figure out, okay, what do I do? How do I level up? And that's so much of the coaching and the conversations that I have in this video community of like, how do I find these clients that want to spend $5,000 or $10,000? Or Ryan, oh my gosh, you had somebody spend $50,000 on a video. Like, where are these people? And it's very different than what you will probably find at most Chamber of Commerce meetings. It's very different from your local networking place where the average marketing budget for these people is I don't know, $5,000 for the whole year, where they can, print out business cards. They might be able to, build out a landing page on their website. They're not doing much.
Follow the money. Where's the money going? Like, I mean, I spend well over that just on Facebook ads or meta ads by myself. Like, there are plenty of people that I know in my circles that are spending $1,000 a day on meta ads or more. People spending millions a year just on meta ads, mostly through video. So if you can tie yourself to that train, now that you're saying $50,000, whoa, not when you're spending $50,000 a week on paid ads for videos that may or may not perform as well as you could create. So that's just a kind of way to differentiate yours. The closer you are to the money as the service provider, the more you can typically charge and the more you can make. And I realize if you're watching the video right now, I've been holding a toothpick weirdly for some reason in this shot. So I'm going to put it down so I'm no longer waving a little like Harry Potter wand around.
You're a lot cooler than I thought. Yes. So I just want to sit here for a minute here. in the beginning, we've got all these low budget clients, and the dream is to get these bigger budget clients. If you sort of think through your ideal client, how much they might want to spend, like if you have a dream amount, for a video, if like $10,000, you're like, man, if I got a $10,000 video, you have to look at like, what are they spending any money on video, right? Because a lot of these businesses probably aren't. The businesses that you're used to, they're probably not investing in video. They might have social media, they might have a nice website, but they're probably not investing in video. They might be doing video, they might be doing their own video. But like what Brian's suggesting here is if there's any way for you to be able to help tie in some kind of a return on investment. If a company is going to drop $50,000 on a video, you better believe that they know that that is going to help them in the big picture. It's going to help them save time. It's going to help them make more money. It's going to help them onboard new clients or onboard new staff. It's going to help them recruit new staff, to just save their team so much time and all of this stuff that requires, some type of communication. So when you are considering, okay, well, you just might need to not level up your who you're hanging out with, because the people are probably amazing. But as you're building a business, you need to be working with people that budget the kind of money and that value what the potential of video can be. And for it to be a company's first video, that's an uphill battle, because it's a lot of like they're going to be very hesitant. They're like, well, is there, so maybe you can give us a discount. Scared
clients are the worst clients. You don't want to work with scared clients ever.
So Brian, in the context, I know you talk about the 6 levels of freelancing. Yep. I don't know if pricing or leveling up, I don't know if that falls anywhere in these levels, but maybe you can touch on some of this.
Yeah. So I want to talk about these 6 levels because it's intriguing to look at it from this perspective, because it's easy. It's, for some reason, in my brain especially, it's fun to put yourself in what level you're at, and then you can just figure out, all right, what do I need to do to get to the next level? Funny enough, though, more than anything, if you write ad copy or sales copy or any sort of copywriting, for those who don't know what copywriting is, it's just words on a page. If you ever write the next level in your ad copy, I will exit your page immediately. So I just hate that phrase in general, I promise. And ChatGPT particularly, by the way, if you ever try to get it to write ad copy, it will almost always put that in the ad copy. So I've specifically instructed it never to use that phrase again. But I want to talk about these 6 levels in a second. But I've got a side quest to go on. You said something about like these people that aren't investing 50 grand in video. I want to talk on this for a second, and maybe we won't even get to the 6 levels. Maybe I have to come back. Maybe this is the way I get a second interview on the show.
Okay. All right.
We come back for the 6 levels. Why aren't they investing 50K in video? And you can answer this question the same way you would look at anything that they spend money on. Why wouldn't they invest $50,000 in employees? Why wouldn't they spend $50,000 in Facebook ads or TikTok ads or YouTube ads? Why wouldn't they spend $50,000 on a business coach? It's because they don't trust that they're going to get a return on that investment. Anytime any business on earth runs, they have unless you're, I don't know of anyone that has unlimited funds. Some people are close to it, but unless you have infinite funds, you have the infinite fun money cheat code on, you figured out how to do the cheat code of life, then you have to figure out how you want to allocate those funds. What are you going to spend that money on? Portion of it's profit for to go to you to live your life. Great. What's the rest of it go to? And you, as the business owner, it's your job to figure out what those things are. So just in your own businesses, you have to make those decisions. So do your clients. And if your clients don't trust that you can get them an ROI on the money they're paying you, they will not hire you, period. Furthermore, even if they are confident that the $50,000 video is the right thing, now they have to say, who is the right person for this? Is it Ryan or is it Brian? I am Brian. I don't have experience with video other than what you're seeing right now. It's not bad, but it's not as good as Ryan's. Ryan's video just on this podcast is better than mine. He's got a teleprompter set up so that he can look straight into the camera. I have to directly look at my camera, which means I can't look at Ryan. Ryan's down here on the screen. He's better than me at video, and that's just the quality. That's not even talking about getting an ROI. So you don't want to hire Brian for your $50,000 video. You want to hire Ryan. And it's a good reason that you don't trust me for this or any other business, because that's not my service. But if you want to talk about spending $50,000 on a coach, I might be your person, because I could probably get you a better ROI on that. As a matter of fact, I just spent $50,000 last week for a day and a half with a business coach, because I knew that I could get more than that back from the information and the help that I could get from that business coach. Trust is the most important part of what I call high ticket sales. If you're charging more than 5, 10, or any amount of money that's deemed significant from your clients, then trust is the number one factor. And if you don't have the trust, you don't have the client. That's my general rule, and it's worked really well. And it's honestly what guides my decisions, because again, I would not have spent 50 grand on that coach last week if I was not dead confident and trusting that that person was going to deliver more than that back over the next year or 2 or 3 to 5 to 10 years for me.
Yeah, dude, man, that's so good. You know, because I have those same conversations too. Like people in my community, a lot of people want to do coaching. When they find out how much it is, it's like, ooh, you know, what's the ROI on this, right? Like, tell me. And you know, I equate similar to when we're talking with clients about brand stories or brand films. These are probably the majority of the videos that we do. And the majority of people that I talk to about doing a video like this that aren't inquiring, but just in conversation, you know, talking to my buddies that own companies and they don't have video, and we start talking about brand films, like they have zero interest, right? Because they're like, what is the ROI? I want to do a video that, you know I'm going to get somebody to sign up to my list, or I know that they're going to go get to my sales page and hire us. So doing a brand film, it's very similar. I always equate it to, like, you know, updating your logo or getting a new website. You can't really tie that to new clients. I mean, there are ways that you can measure and see and whatever.
I think you can, because, like, again, the type of clients you're working with, I don't know what, give me one example client that you did a brand video for, and I can probably tie it back to how they'll get an ROI on it. I'm just curious if I can pull this off just out of thin air here.
Law firm.
Okay, perfect. Actually, a really good example. That makes it, thanks for the underhanded pitch to me there. So let me hit the home run. You created a brand video. It's probably not a direct response copywriting ad with comedy elements, like you would, like that's ridiculous. You wouldn't do that, but it's very high quality. It has the perception of trust, so that if I'm trying to look to a law firm that I'm going to pay $50,000, or they're going to get I'm trying to get a $100,000 settlement or a $500,000 settlement or whatever, I'm trying to make a decision of, is this the right law firm for me? I'm making the same exact calculations. I could spend $100,000 here or whatever. I don't know how legal stuff works, because I don't hire like lawyers to sue people. And maybe this isn't maybe I'm going to the wrong place here. Maybe this isn't one of those law firms. Maybe it's like a legitimate, like, good law firm, and they're not like, you don't pay unless we collect. Either way, the brand video invokes trust, and trust is a huge part of these higher ticket sales, and lawyers charge a lot. So it makes sense that I could easily say there's an ROI on that brand video because of the trust factor that it invokes when people see it.
Yes. So same page, totally same page. But as I'm trying to explain to somebody, if I have a new logo, that's not going to make you buy. If you watch my video, that's not going to make you buy. It might get you closer. If you go to my website and you see this crappy website, there's going to be a lack of trust.
Don't go to my website,
like, man,
I'm joking.
If somebody can tell that I've invested time and I have a really nice looking logo, I've got a nice catchy tagline, I've got the great, it looks really nice. There's going to be a feeling of, okay, I trust that this person isn't just like working out of their basement. Who knows? Maybe they are. Or they see this really nice video. So a brand film for a company at face value, it's like, well, what's the return on this? Because there's no clear call to action. It's like you're just trying to create a feeling. And that feeling a lot of times is trust. And it's hard to put a price tag on that, because how many views am I going to get? And like, how many people are going to hire us? I'm like, I don't know. But if part of what you're trying to do at like first impression is to create and build trust, a brand film is like one of the smartest things that you can create.
It's a very different service than Harmon Brothers, but Harmon Brothers is not getting hired by law firms, because law firms typically don't want comedy videos when it comes to doing legal stuff.
Totally. But also, like, depending on who might be hiring Harmon Brothers, there might be a need of like, oh, this caught my attention, but like, okay, now I'm getting ready to spend some money. Let me build some trust here, because I can tell that they're legit. They make some sweet stuff. But if all you need is comedy or whatever, but if you're working with any type of service or anything that requires some arm linking or a significant investment, then maybe you need to know a little bit more. You need to build trust. One thought here that I had as you were talking was, a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I would love to do more brand stories, these documentary style, you're just kind of following the business leader around, or you're interviewing people and kind of getting to the heart and soul of, why they do what they do. If you haven't taken the time to invest in your own story, in telling your own story, but you're trying to convince people that having a brand story is very important, you might be missing out on some element of trust, because if you have one, then it would be very easy for you to say, like, this works for us. We're building trust so much faster and having more engaged conversations on our discovery calls. But if you're not willing to invest, it's like, why should somebody else consider investing in this thing that you're trying to get them to buy?
I see both sides of it, because I have a couple in my coaching clientele. I have a couple of people that do podcast production, and while two of them have podcasts of their own, which would make sense as a podcast production agency, as a ways to get clients, one of them doesn't, and the one that doesn't just closed like 35 or 40 grand of clients last month. So it's kind of one of those, like, at a certain point, if the thing that you are selling requires a lot of time and ongoing maintenance, then at a certain point, it's like, if you're successful, you don't have time to do it. I don't know. There's always like the designer who's always like, I have an ugly website. It's weird. I'm a web designer, but I have an ugly site. So I see both sides of it, but at the same time, you kind of got to drink your own Kool-Aid to some level.
At some level, yeah. And if you watched our brand film, it's like a 90-second, like, it's a very small fraction of what we would recommend. But I've been doing this for 18 years, so I've got more a wider network. We've been doing referrals. Like, people come to us already like pre-sold, so it's a lot easier for us. And yeah, like, it's not like that's necessary, but if you want to build trust faster, saying like, you've got it, like, that's one killer way, I think, that work. And since we're on the subject, how has transformational stories worked for you in your coaching? Do you use or do you leverage feedback or input, videos, text, whatever, from people that you're coaching that are saying things like, man, Brian helped me do X, Y, and Z. I'm making this much more. Like, do you use any of that to build trust? Or
nope. And I'll tell you why. It's a wonderful thing to do. If you need clients, absolutely do that. Case studies are wonderful. And I have a bunch that I have like earmarked to create at some point. But I'm also at capacity with coaching clients. So I don't need more clients. I have like a waiting list of 10 people right now. So it's like, I even sent somebody to you, Ryan, because I was like, honestly, Ryan's a better fit for you anyways, and I don't have capacity. So I don't have that yet. But I also am, I'm big on like, okay, yes, I have ADHD. Yes, in my lifetime, I've launched too many businesses. But as I get older, I'm 36 now. And I've gotten better at honing in my focus. And one of the things that I've really focused on is, what is the bottleneck holding my business back the most? And for the past 2 years, it hasn't been marketing, which is fun. I mean, I teach marketing. My coaching program is a marketing coaching program. I help people with their marketing, or what I call client acquisition, because client acquisition is a lot of things and it's more than just marketing. But along with that, that hasn't been my bottleneck. And it's actually a good thing. I would feel bad if I was struggling with marketing and that was the thing I'm trying to coach on. My bottleneck and my thing that's been holding me back has been on the fulfillment side and the systems side and the hiring side specifically. I was talking to you about this ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's what this coach has helped me with, is on the hiring side. Because I don't have any experience hiring full-time employees. I don't even know what the process is. I only have ever worked with contractors. So you're kind of getting a little behind the scenes of the imperfect side of Brian here. And, but I don't even remember what the question was, but now I'm just talking because I'm on a podcast. So I'm going to stop now. You can bring us back on, task because you're the host.
Well, you were talking about like the advantage of like not having to market, right? Like you haven't.
Oh, you asked me about the case study, the brand videos. I would use them for case studies, and you can do case studies in a number of different ways. You can do interview style, which is probably what I'll do. You can do the really nice sit down with with cameras and multicam and cinematic style. You can do the thing where it follows the life of the person, which I would love to do, but I'm not a videographer, and the only videographer I really know, aside from one coaching client that I have who's in California, is Ryan. And Ryan, where do you live, Ryan?
Detroit.
Yeah, you're not going to come to Nashville.
Not that far. It's like
you're not going to come to Nashville to shoot I don't see you shooting a documentary style testimonial video or whatever for me, but I'd love to do that. But until my capacity for clients comes up, or some clients graduate from my coaching, then I will not really focus on really doing much of that stuff. And that's kind of a good lesson for anyone listening right now. If you just want to take away and not just listen to me talk about my own business, because who cares about my business? It's all about your business, the listener. Look at what your actual bottleneck is. And it's probably worth just running quickly through the 5 bottlenecks that people have, if you want me to. This is not the episode I had planned, but there's 5 bottlenecks. We can talk about this.
1 of 2.
This is probably worth the last 3 minutes of this conversation. We can go.
Yep.
The first thing on the list is the first potential bottleneck is lead generation, like how many leads you're generating each month. The next is lead nurture, how you staying top of mind, building trust with people, building a relationship with people. The third potential bottleneck is sales, like What's the percentage of people that you close who ask you for prices or rates or your availability or fill out your form or book a call? Like, what's your sales conversion rate there? That's a potential bottleneck. The fourth is, I don't know how to explain this better than just saying like monetization. Like, how much is a client worth to you over the period of a year? Because some people it's recurring services, some people it's a one and done thing. But what's the economics behind one client and what they're worth? And then the fourth is fulfillment. Like, how good are you actually fulfilling the thing? How many people can you take on? Is that a bottleneck for you? That's been my thing for a while, is I can only take on a certain number of clients. And for all of us, it's different. For so many of my listeners on the Six Figure Creative Podcast, it is lead generation, lead nurture, and sales. It's those first kind of top of funnel things. But for so many people who are already established, especially people who have agencies like you, the bottleneck tends to be around fulfillment. You could take on more clients, but that means you're gonna have to hire more people, or you're gonna have to say no to some other projects. So all of us have one bottleneck. We don't have two. We just have one bottleneck. And if you work on the other areas that you love to work on because that's your passion and that's fun for you, and you ignore the one bottleneck, you will not grow. So that's been my focus for the past, especially this year, but the last year and a half, is fixing my one major bottleneck, which is on the fulfillment and team hiring side.
I love it, dude. That's really good. I love the list. I would say that most people, this is hilarious. Somebody recently said, man, if I had 10 times as many leads, you know, and they're a legitimate business, or not 10 times as many leads, 10 times as many clients. And I was like, bro,
that's a lot of clients.
10 times the amount of clients. Like, do you have the infrastructure?
Like, whether you have one client a month or 10, that's a lot of clients, 10xing that. Yeah.
Yes, that made me a little nervous. But I will say most people that are in this community are like, man, I need more leads. And the quality of leads, right? Like, because I'm tired of doing the $500, you know, $1,000 video. I need to do higher quality or higher budget, and I need a lot more leads. Where should somebody start?
That's a $1 million question right there. With every client I work with, the first place we start is, what are you offering and who are you offering it to? That's the number one thing I look at. What are you offering? Who are you offering it to? That's it. Because like, all right, I can offer those button seat jobs, right? Like the podcast editors of the world, the video editors of the world. No offense to any video editors right now. That's a good place to start. You can make some decent money doing it, but it's not like a transformational outcome for people. It's not really closely tied to the money, the outcome that business owners want, at least. So I work on that first. And so you might have a really good thing that you do, like podcast production, but if you're working with sports bros in their parents' basement doing sports podcasts to like an audience of 6 people, they're not going to pay that much. So you could even really have a really good offer, but if you're going after the wrong audience or the wrong type of client, you're not going to succeed. So getting those two things first are done there. From there, working on pricing, packaging, messaging, making sure all that's honed in. And then from there, you've got to have some ways to build trust and bring in leads. So, I mean, that's like the 30-second version of like, where do you start? But it starts at the bottom of the funnel, and I work my way up the funnel. I don't start with lead generation. That's like the last thing I ever do. As a matter of fact, I just finished one of the last major playbooks of this coaching program that I've been like working on for a long time to get this really honed in and teachable and replicatable from people, is my whole paid advertising playbook. And that's because that's the last thing to work on. You don't just throw paid ads at a failing business and think it's going to save it. Paid ads is an amplifier. It's an amplifier of what's already built. Yeah. So if you have a failing business, you were throwing money at a dying thing. So you have to have a really healthy business with good referral rates, good client retention, good pricing, good positioning, preferably some way to stay top of mind, like content or retargeting ads, something like that, because that's easy advertising to do. And only then do you really start opening up the floodgates for paid advertising for people. But yeah, start from the bottom up. And I just picked up my magic wand toothpick again without even thinking about it. I'm going to throw this across the room.
Doing magic tricks.
It's on the floor now.
So just to summarize what Brian said there, what are you offering? Like having, not like I offer video services, general, but being very specific. Is it brand films? Is it brand films for a specific kind of industry, or is it a specific kind of brand film for a very specific niche inside of that industry? And the more you can refine that, then when it comes to creating content or creating a reason for people to check you out, you know what you should be creating, or you have a much better idea. Instead of like, okay, well, let me create a general blog post for this general audience of anybody that needs video, or let me create a general post on LinkedIn just about video production service. Like, that's like, it's not going to be ringing in anybody's ears. So you're not doing yourself a favor. You're just adding to the noise that nobody wants to be a part of. And then when you're clear on all of that, when you're clear on what it is that you're offering and who you're offering it to, building out some very specific pricing. So it's not like you're not starting from scratch every time, but you know what it's going to take to at least create the basic version of this thing. And sure, people can add more days and they can add more complexity, like motion design and animated logo, just like whatever all of the other things are. But at the core, like, what's the easiest, quickest, most efficient way for you to create this for a client that they would have this and they would be able to use it? What does that cost? What does that cost you? What is the profit margin? Making sure that it's a profitable thing. Then you can start selling that thing. Then you can create a second version of it, a third version of it, and have multiple. And then putting gas on a fire, you can really start promoting, this is what we do, this is who we help, this is how we help them, these are the things that we offer, this is the price points. It just makes the whole thing so much easier. Brian, this is so good. I'm sad that we have to end now. But we've started some momentum here. So we'll bring you back. We'll cover the 6 things of freelancing, or we'll do something different. Yeah. We had this whole plan, this grandmaster plan to start this show there, and we did not even. I mean, I tried to go there, but it was like, we were just too.
Sometimes the conversation takes a life of its own.
And I like that. That's good. Well, I just love the journey that you've been on, all of what you've accomplished, where you're at. You and your wife just spent, I don't know, how long, 60 days, a couple of months, like other side of the world.
Yeah, spent a couple months in Bali, just on a workation, I guess you call it, where we were still working and stuff, but it was just fun to work remotely because we can, and why not?
I love it. You're definitely an inspiration, and I love the impact that you're having on a lot of different lives. So thank you again for having me on your show. I'm so glad that you got to come here. We have to do this again. I'm excited to get feedback. I'm sure people are going to say, like, dude, that Brian guy, can he replace the Ryan guy?
Yeah, don't ever have Brian on the show again. He kept talking about his own damn businesses, and I got sick of it.
Yeah, like okay, Brian, like we know you do coaching, okay? Yeah. We got it. You're trying to make your $52,000 back or whatever.
No, not my goal here, man.
Brian, before we go, where can people find you? How can they follow along with all of the amazing things that you're doing?
I want to give a couple things away to people. And this comes from the conversation you asked earlier about what should people start on first? My specialty is client acquisition. So I have a whole episode of this on the podcast, and I have what I call a client acquisition toolkit I want to give away to people. So I set up a URL specifically for your listeners. If you just go to sixfigurecreative.com/grow, that's GROW, for those who for some reason can't spell that. I don't know why I decided to spell it out, but sixfigurecreative.com/grow. And on that page, there will be the episode that's called How to Build Your Own Client Acquisition Machine and Make 2023 Your Best Year Ever. And then there'll also be the toolkit on that page. So go there, sign up for that, and I'll send it your way. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Love it, dude. So grateful for you. And again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, man.
All right, that was episode 327. If you want the show notes, go to studiosherpas.com/327. You can get some of the links and just see some of the different things that Brian and I talked about. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, and you have a question or a comment, leave it there. Would love to hear what's your big takeaway from this episode. Like I said, there was just lots of good nuggets in here. I've got Brian already on the schedule to bring him back because I was like, I need to get more time with this guy. I just felt like he brought the heat and would love to know from you. Did he bring the heat? And what are you going to do about the thing that you learned? If there was something that you learned, I guess I shouldn't assume. And hey, if you like this show and you want to leave a review, I would love for you to do that. You can find a link right in the show notes here. Or just if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can just click the review button. This one is from James Galacci. This is a 5-star review. The subject is Changed My Way of Thinking. Oh, baby. I mean, could you come up with a better podcast review title? I don't think so. I was in a week-long webinar challenge with Ryan and learned a ton. I was able to attend a couple live sessions and watch the recordings of the other days and practice the principles he was teaching. So far, I've made it to episode 52, starting from the beginning. Wow, James, you got a long way to go, buddy. And I have had so many ideas flow to my brain. I also really enjoy Matt being so sincere and genuine with his experience and his responses. I've stopped listening to my workout playlist at the gym because these episodes are gold. And yes, I do miss having Matt on the show, but you know, it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Anyway, James, thank you so much for your review. Really appreciate you taking time out. And if you, as you're listening, are like, man, I should leave a review, I really like this show, would love for you to do that. So please, I invite you to. And if there's somebody that you think could benefit from this show, just take a screenshot. My kids made fun of my wife and I the other day because we said screen grab. I don't know. Whatever one is not cool, apparently. Whatever. So do that thing and send it to your friend that you think might benefit from this show. Appreciate that so much. Thank you for being here. And I am wishing and hoping for amazing things from you. I just got done with a 10X Filmmaker coaching call earlier today, and we were talking about this season of all of our video businesses is interesting. I'm hearing from a lot of people that jobs aren't coming in like they used to, and we're seeing some of that too. So it's just like, I think where things are at, and I don't have any magic bullets or any things to like say other than we'll get through it and we will be better because of it on the other side. So hang in there. Make sure that you're not doing this thing alone, right? You and me hanging out on the podcast, that's awesome. But I've got a free community on Facebook that you can join. If you go to studiosherpas.com/community, you could do that. Or if you're interested in the 10X Filmmaker community, we would love to have you be a part of something bigger than just you. You don't have to do this business on your own. There are a lot of amazing people that can help you on this journey. So I invite you to dig in a little bit and let's do this together, okay? We're here. I'm here. I want to support you, and I want you to build the video business of your dreams. And if there's anything I can do to help you do that, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email is just ryan@studiosherpas.com. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you on next week's episode. Unless you're James. James, it's been 2 years since you started listening. Just kidding. Remember James, the guy who gave the review? Yeah, anyway. Okay, bye for now. See ya.